everybody, Aaron here. So in the world of anime, there's plenty of romance to choose from. I mean, there is so many different romance anime out there. You could see stuff like Kanad. If you like more supernatural stuff, you could see Kanan or Beyond the Boundary. There's literally a couple hundred different romance shows out there, maybe a couple thousand. But I'll be honest with you, not all romance shows are great. There's definitely a lot of shows that I feel hit the mark, but also miss it by a long distance. Luckily, our Haru Ride, or Blue Spring Ride as it's known in English translation, is definitely not one of those. This is a show that's amazing. It hits every note I wanted to hit, and there's only a few things keeping it from being a masterpiece, but we'll talk about that in the review. So, our Haru Ride, or Blue Spring Ride as I'm going to call it from here on out because it's a little easier to say personally, is about a very simple concept, a very usual trope of high school romance. Our main characters are Kou and Futaba. Now, Futaba and Kou actually were childhood friends slash middle school friends, and they actually started falling in love at one point, and they were getting very close. However, they get separated for reasons that will be explained later in the show, and end up only meeting each other once again in high school, where Futaba notices that Kou has changed dramatically. He goes from this kind of, very loud pitched kid who was crying all the time to this very cool and suave and actually deep voiced character. And she's almost like just baffled by the fact that he's like that now. Now, what's interesting about this is right there you think, oh, this sounds kind of generic. I mean, is it just like, long lost love that comes back into life and is just changed or something like that? In many ways, I can understand if you fall into that category, if you think like that right away, because I'll be honest with you, Blue Spring Ride when it first started didn't have me right there from the gate. It took like at least I think one or two episodes before I was really invested into it. So the first episode, it wasn't bad, but by the third episode I was hooked because it just is that good. There's a lot of things that work for the show. Number one, the animation. The animation is gorgeous. I love the character designs. I love the backgrounds. I think that it all fits together to make a really nice looking anime. It kind of reminds me of something almost by Clamp. Like, in many ways, the design reminds me of something from Clamp. I don't think it's done by anyone from there, mind you, but it has that Clamp feel to them, with characters that are very long, lanky characters. It's not as, extravagant as Clamp. I mean, Clamp, has characters that have basically Jack Skeleton from Nightmare Before Christmas, arms and legs. It's not that extravagant, but it has that feel to it, especially in the colors of characters and stuff like that. Another thing that really goes well with the show is the music and the voice acting. The music, I'll tell you right now, I love the opening. I think the closing is very cute. I love the music in between. Like, all the background music is so fitting for the actual show. There are episodes that just, when you hear the background song, you just feel what's going on screen. Even besides them talking, you just feel even more. And that's very rare for a romance show to do. And I think that a lot of more romance shows really do need that accompaniment of songs, because if you don't have that, you kind of lose some of what I want to say, the feeling that's going into a scene. So without that, you definitely, are losing that. But luckily, Blue Spring Ride has it. Same with the voice acting. I think the voice acting, there is no English dub, by the way. Let me just mention that. It's all Japanese dub. All the voice actors are really good. I don't know of them per se who they are off the top of my head. I think a few of them have been obviously in other things too before, and I've heard the main characters definitely in other shows before. But they fit their characters, and I really like how they're not too extravagant with their characters, which is something that I think is a good thing, because they're, how I would see these characters if they're actually portrayed. From what I hear, the live action is very similar in the sense of that, where they have characters that are portraying them in a very strong senses. And I saw a preview actually of the live action, and you know what? I'm like, that's how I could see them in real life. So they did a good job with that, but I'm not really reviewing the live action. And maybe I will review the live action at a later date, but right now I'm focusing on anime, obviously. And I'll say that the voice acting is solid, definitely. Now, story, everything else, it's something that it all hits the marks in the right areas. I think my only complaint with Blue Spring Ride is near the end. I feel like the very end is so epic. You learn a lot about Kou. You learn, like, what I think is essentially the best character of the show is Kou, because his character is just so dramatic, but not for like melodramatic purposes, more so dramatic because of what he experiences in life, and I can almost relate to it in many ways. That's the thing that makes him, such a strong character. I'm not saying that I went through the same things that his character goes through, obviously, but I'm saying that I can relate to how he would feel if that happened to me, per se. Now, I'll say Futaba's story in many ways is very interesting because she has problems at the beginning of the show, but actually gets a lot of that resolved near the midpoint, which is pretty cool. So it's like almost if you think about it, it's like we kind of have two gears going. We have the girl as a focus in the beginning, and then we have the guy at the focus near the end. And the same time, working in between all that is a love triangle slash their unrequited loves, because the thing is that they do have feelings for each other obviously, but they're both dealing with their own kind of stigmas. In Futaba's case, she has it where she doesn't feel very feminine a lot of times, and then you have Kou, who's dealing with his trials and tribulations, and they explain that later. Like I said, I don't want to spoil it, so I'm not gonna tell you what it is, but I feel like that all hits the right notes for a good story. It's the problem is at the very end of it, after it gets past Kou's story and you get all that stuff, it feels like this could have had a second season. And from what I know, the manga continues way past this, and the live action continues to the very end also. So I can clearly see where they cut the anime short, and that's a problem in one way. But at the same time, it's like I don't hate it for doing that. I just feel like they could have added more. But maybe at this point, it was a good idea that they cut it where it was just working. Because instead of giving it a rushed ending like a lot of romance stories do, I'm looking at you, Maid-sama, because Maid-sama just rushed the ending of that. And I still have issues with that. Instead of doing something like that, what they decided to do is like, hey, you know what? Let's leave it with this kind of open-ended type of story where things are going to go for these characters, and you kind of already have an idea of where it's going to go, even without reading the manga. Now, if you read the manga, though, you do clearly learn that there's more to it. But luckily, we don't see that from the ending of the anime, so you don't have to read the manga if you don't want to, which is cool. Overall, Blue Spring Ride was an enjoyable show. It took me a long time to watch it because I was obviously watching so many other shows at the time. But, with the last several episodes, I was so gripped that I couldn't actually stop watching them. I had to watch all of them because they just had the most impact of the whole series, and I really enjoyed them. And like I said, everything in the show kind of works in a nice package, with just the one issue being the very end, and maybe at the time some of the characters not being fully fleshed out. I'm talking more so about the secondary characters. The side characters, they have storylines, but they're not fully fleshed out enough, and that is a bit of an issue. But it's not really something that takes away too much from it. But it is, definitely a detriment to this show in general. That's why, with everything being said, if I had to rate this between an A through F, I have to give it a solid A minus, because honestly, it's still one of those shows that you're gonna watch it, you're gonna love the main two characters because I think they're the strongest presence of the whole show, and you're gonna love the music, you're gonna love the animation, you're just gonna love the show in general, and definitely you're gonna want to watch, and then maybe probably read past it just to get more from the show in general. Anyways, guys and girls, I hope you noticed that I did a little bit of a different intro. I plan on doing that with anything further, because I just kind of want to change up my intro style, and I'm hoping it works. If you guys like it, please leave in the comments, tell me what you thought of it. As you know, also, in case you missed my update, you should go check out my update. It's very important because I do talk about why I'm having this review out instead of probably mainstream stuff coming out today. So I hope you do check that out. But anyways, guys and girls, I will talk to you later. Have a great, blessed day. As always, until I pass cross again in the next review, have a good one, everyone. Bye-bye.